Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power of User Groups as a Global Channel. We have here Sofia Rodriguez Mata and with Jessica Galiana. They will talk about the Trailblazer community groups, and each year, hundreds of their community groups come together for extended learning gatherings after their marquee corporate events. So this amplifies their key announcements and extends the learning and fun from their events around the world. So join Sophia and Jessica for a case study on how they build and manage these massive community-led surges and get insight into the how-to and the bottom line business benefits. So welcome to the stage, Sophia.
Hello and thank you. It looks like Jessica's having a hard time joining. Can we help her out? And while we're working through that, everyone, we are going to have an icebreaker. So I'm going to drop in the chat a URL where you can get your favorite emoji.
Hi, everyone. And thanks, Soph.
Of course. All right.
So excited.
And Jess, are we ready to go? You see my screen?
It's loading. Loading. Yep, we're good.
Okay, perfect. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to share with you the power of user groups as a global channel. We know there have been some technical hiccups throughout the morning, so it's okay. Sit back and relax, refresh, try another browser. If all things fail, know that this is being recorded, so you will get to watch the session at a later time. We're just here to have fun and learn. So we want to start off with our introductions, and while we are also going to introduce ourselves using an emoji story, we want you to do the same in the chat. So whether it's the emoji you have most used the past couple of weeks, or if you literally want to tell your whole life story using only emojis, please do so, because CMX is not just about you getting to know the presenters, but you getting to know each other. So I will kick us off. My name is Sofia. And once upon a time, a Leo was born into the world, specifically in Mexico. This Leo eventually found their way to the United States, where she absolutely loved the pursuit of learning. It didn't matter if it was painting, jazz choir, folklorico dancing, if it was orchestra, government, leadership programs, thermodynamics, calculus, you name it, but eventually all of these things led her to a degree, which has nothing to do with community management, but that's okay, because in the pursuit of learning and being a member of all these different groups that didn't have a lot in common, she learned the foundational skills to be a community manager. And so eventually that led me to Salesforce, where I am now a community manager, and I also volunteered to co-lead an internal community of employees. And this is also where I met Jessica.
Hi, everyone. So happy to attend my first CMX Summit with Sophia, which I respect immensely. So my emoji story, and I love seeing yours in the chat, is that I was back in France dreaming of going and moving to the US, and specifically to the Bay Area, because I love the sea. And so I did that. I jumped onto the cloud and went to San Francisco, where I get to enjoy my passions that are the sea and photography. With COVID, I'm a mom and a teacher, and I get to experience a lot more of Japanese cuisine and cooking. And when I really thrive is get to grow a business, an industry, and that's how I got to enjoy this role and find this role, is how to grow this community that has grown organically for so many years and juggling many things. And so I took a deep dive into the community and loved it ever since.
And I'm on the community side, while Jessica's on the marketing side, but we work really well together. I know this isn't always the case for community managers out there. Maybe sometimes you struggle, maybe you work really well together, but Jessica and I happen to work so well together that sometimes when we are out in the wild at our corporate events, our community members confuse us for each other. So they think I'm Jessica and they think she is Sophia. And we love this. We like to have fun with it. So this is actually a couple of pictures of us at a corporate event having fun. We like to say that we are just sisters from another Mr., the Mr. being France and the Mr. being Mexico, so that's okay. So we know at CMX there are a bunch of other really valuable sessions that you could be attending, and it means the world to us that you chose to be present with us right now. So we want to make sure that what we share with you makes a difference in your day-to-day life. So I want to go over what you'll learn and get to take away from this presentation. First, we want to make sure that we're speaking the same language. So we are going to define what a surge is, how you can identify it, and how you can seize a surge. Then we want to help you visualize what a surge could be at your organization. A case study of a program that we call Global Gatherings. And finally, we want to leave you with the framework to actually host a surge within your organization so you can really leverage the power of it. Throughout the presentation, there will be screenshots and GIFs. Whenever it's mentioning a tool or a platform, we do let you know what tool it is in italics. And also throughout the presentation, if you see a camera emoji, that means it's a slide that Jessica and I thought would be good for you to take a snapshot of, especially if you're taking notes for your team to bring back. So let's make sure that we are in the same understanding and speaking the same language. So at Salesforce, we have something called Trailblazer community groups. For the purposes of this presentation, we're going to call them user groups because that's the way that most of us know these programs. So at Salesforce, our user groups are split into 3 different buckets. They are job role, industry, and affinity. Under job role, you might find something like Salesforce admins or Salesforce developers. Under industry, it might be financial services or manufacturing. And under affinity, it might be women in tech groups. We have representation in over 85 countries. We have over 1,300 user groups, and we have over 1,900 leaders. And the leaders are Salesforce customers who are incredibly passionate. They're people like Surbi right here on this slide who want to give back by hosting meetings either online or offline for other customers just like them. And so the reason why I want to share these numbers with you is not to compare. We're not going to play a comparison game. It's not about like whose is bigger, none of that. So get that out of your mind. Some of you might be managing a community for only one type of vertical, one type of industry. You might be focused only in one region or one country or one city. So let's not compare, okay? What we do want to show you here is that the reason we've been able to scale is because over years, we really focused on the health of our community. A healthy community is a prosperous community. It means that more members want to participate, more people are joining, that inspires other people to step up to lead, and so you have a community that continues to grow and scale. And if you want to supercharge this growth, you can do something that's called a surge. So Jessica, what sparks a surge?
Well, let me get into this. So a surge, if you go to the next one, happens in the life of any organization. So whether you have conferences, product launches, feature releases, company celebrations, it is the moment in your company that all employees and everyone is looking in the same direction. So what can you harness? How can you harness that energy and give it to your user group or community groups in our language? So if you go to the next one, these are the recipes of a great surge. So when you have that attention, seize it. And let's go to the next one to talk about why. Why would you do that? Why would you bother? There is like so much to gain. And the number one is members engagement. Like Sofia was talking about, the way we work so great is because the marketing is not looking at, oh, how do I increase, I don't know, my social media presence? That's not my goal. My goal is how do I make this community grow? And it has grown beautifully. So we want quality engagement. And that shows up in having greater RSVP and greater signups. And if you see in the graph, what's really important is you could be scared and be like, oh, it's going up and down, but really it's trending up. And it's how do you get this momentum? The surge is helping you to get the momentum to get higher and bounce higher and bounce higher over time. And that's connection that you're getting between your employees, the product teams, everyone, and the group leaders and the group members is so beautiful because it also shows in the satisfaction of the member. So if we go to the next one, Sophia, can you tell us a little bit about the global gatherings you mentioned?
I sure can. So now that we defined what a surge is and how you can identify it and why it's good for you, I want to help you visualize it. So feel free to close your eyes or just listen along. At Salesforce, we have a program called Global Gatherings, and it follows two of our major conferences, which are Dreamforce and Trailhead DX. These are conferences that our customers absolutely love, but something that we all know about conferences is that they can often be a very expensive affair. They have to purchase the ticket, their flight, their lodging, food. They have to take time off work. And so all in all, it's something where price-wise, it's not accessible to everyone. But we know that there was a lot to leverage that was happening internally. Our company was listening, our employees were bought in, there was a lot of great content, and there were a lot of great traditions that were just waiting there to be leveraged. And so this is where we decided to create a program called Global Gatherings, where we could bring the same great content, the spirit, the networking, and the fun right to everyone's local community. And so what you're seeing here in the picture are snapshots of global gatherings happening all around the world. And they could happen and be in meetings as small as 5 to 10 people, or sometimes they went up to over 300 attendees. But part of this was that we made it so all this content, everything was packaged up in a way that the leaders and the community groups could build in a way that made sense for their local communities. So think back to what Jessica was sharing on the different types of surges. Global Gatherings is a conference type of surge. And Jessica and I decided to build together because that's a part of the reason why we've been able to have such massive impact is because we are working together. So we decided that we wanted to have an impact in growth, engagement, and reach. With growth, we know through our industries and just through working that if you have 10% year-over-year growth, that's really good. Whatever you tried out for your initiative or campaign, it worked, so you could keep trying it. But because we're leveraging the surge and working together, we found that we've been able to have over 20% year-over-year growth, and some years as high as 50% year-over-year growth. With engagement, something that's very important to us with our user groups is that, you know, for some reason or another, sometimes user groups go dormant. Maybe they're taking a break, maybe they need some extra help, and that's okay. But how do we reactivate them? So we found that through Global Gatherings, because it offers this perfect event-in-a-box kit, about a third of the groups who are participating are actually groups that we're able to re-engage. So they previously weren't active, and we just got them to be active again. With reach, we also find that during this time, Global Gatherings time, surge time, our social media is, all of our social media metrics are 10 times larger than they would be at any given time during the year. So overall, you see that when you host a surge, every single impact that you want to have is going to exponentially increase.
Now you're probably wondering, how do you do that? So here's a framework, and here's a picture. So we've built also this framework, thinking about thank you earlier. How do you build to scale and support? How do you give yourself a release, because we know you don't always have a team. Like, we're so lucky to have each other. How do you do that it's easier for yourself? How do you provide the best content? Because we know this is the key milestone to having great engagement on site, is to have a good meeting. And last but not least, the marketing. How do you engage the full brand power? Whatever your brand is, you can really rally around those surges. So moving on to the next one, let's focus on the first pillar, build to scale and support. So we're gonna walk you through all those 4 things. So let's go to the next one. The first step is this event platform. So we've been lucky to work on an event platform that allows us to do 2 things. Multiple things, but the biggest, number 1, is transparency. We have, from a registration to satisfaction, full visibility of how the user groups are engaging on that event type. And so by creating an event type, not only do we have the transparency, but we also help them leverage all the marketing look and feel to feel cohesive with our brand. Last but not least, who doesn't love analytics and ROI, all the stats that we've been able to share? It's also because of that transparency that we get through the platform. If we go to the next one, the second big pillar that we want to highlight is our partnership works so well because I really care for that community to have all the assets they need to promote it in their events. And that went through a brand asset kit. It took me about 8 months, I think, to get it. So it's not an easy feat to have the breadth of marketing assets that you might want for your user groups, but really it pays off. It's how we can have promotional kits. You can see here in the image that just went away for me, but maybe not for you. The congrats is a certification voucher. It aligns to our messaging pillars and the values that we have of learn, connect, have fun, and give back. And this is part of like our fun element and also give back. We give vouchers for certification for people who attend the meeting. How can they customize it? And the customization aspect is so important for your user group. They don't want to look like the mothership, as we call it at Salesforce. They want to be like a little bit different. And it's back for me on the slide, by the way. They want to be able to customize it, have their pictures, photos, have different text. And so that's what we brought with this kit.
And just a side note, I absolutely love what Jessica created with the asset kit. As we know, sometimes our user group leaders, if you're not able to give them something that they need, they're just going to create it on their own. And so there were some great images that were floating around out in the world, but there were also some images where if you just close your eyes and picture a cerulean background and then bold red papyrus font on top, those things didn't look so great. And so we really needed to create this asset kit to make sure that our leaders were having a great experience. And it's also something that just makes it look very cohesive from members to leaders to us. So shout out to Jess for that. So the
Thank you. No brand deal for me.
No brand gel, yes. So is that with a surge in this great scale, it also has the potential of becoming a support nightmare. And because this is CMX Summit, I'll be vulnerable and share that for me, it did become a support nightmare at some time. I knew that I was feeling burnt out. And for anyone that manages a community or is in a company that is very events driven, you know that anytime there is a conference, it's a very high stress time. There's different programs, different initiatives, a lot of moving pieces. And then to add another program on top of it, that's burnout times 2.0. It's burnout on steroids. So you know that there's a lot going on. So I knew I had the feelings. I knew I was feeling burnt out. But we know that sometimes in the corporate world, you need more than just your feelings. You need to show data behind it. And so what we're seeing here in this GIF is a Salesforce dashboard. We customized it to show the metrics and KPIs that were important to us. That might include things like RSVPs by country or by segment. It might show us the largest meetings by RSVPs or the number of groups that we reactivated. But one thing that I particularly wanted to look at were the amount of support cases for the surge that were happening during this conference time. And so I found that 45% of support cases during the time were related to the surge. That was a big, oh no, I knew something had to change. So the solution for that was creating knowledge articles. So knowledge articles became our dedicated support site for our user group leaders. We were able to create articles in anticipation based off the support cases that they had previously sent to us, or just by taking really good educated guesses around what we think they would need. It also provided us with a way to get help from other team members. So now when we are on Service Cloud or answering an email, a team member could just plug in a knowledge article into the email template and respond right away. This also helped, so there wasn't a huge learning curve with my team because the knowledge articles were already created for them, so we were able to leverage their help. And on the other side for us, knowledge articles personally show us some cool insights. One of these is the amount of views. So with views, we can also make educated guesses around how to plan better for next year. So let's say that the brand asset kit that we mentioned is in one of these knowledge articles, and we see that it has a lot of views, then we can probably safely assume that this knowledge article is something that the leaders are using and liking, so we can hope to deliver more of that next year for them. The other side of this, of course, is the external side of this. So for a search to be successful, you really need the buy-in from your user group leaders. We rely on them to really be successful. And so we have to make this a very easy and seamless experience for them. We were able to do this through what we call a host guide. So the host guide is their central hub, it's their central repository where they can come in and get all the resources and information they need to successfully host this type of meeting. The way that we approach it is that we provide a sort of event-in-a-box buffet. So they can pick and choose whatever component looks good to them and use it to prepare for their meeting. For us personally, we categorize all of our components by our community values, which are learn, connect, have fun, and give back. So for example, under the learn component, they would be able to go there and download any presentations or worksheets or agendas that they need to host their meeting. You can do something similar at your organization, or you can choose to categorize it in a different way. But a really important part of the host guide is that it is a living and breathing document. So you can rest assured that your host guide is going to be something where at any given time, your user group leaders can receive the most up-to-date information. This also saves you from having to rely on another team to send out newsletters. I don't know about all of you, but anytime you send out emails to a customer, there's often a lot of approvals that you have to go through, and we just don't have the time. So we want to work smarter there. On the internal side of this, with the knowledge articles and the host guide, there's a lot of program management that goes on. So for us personally, we thought about everything that needed to be delivered. We assigned an owner to all of those deliverables, and we had deadlines. And this was all to ensure that on the external side, everything was seamless. Because our search and our program is so massive and we work with different people across the company, we personally used a work management tool. That just makes it easy for you to manage. When you're starting out, you might not need a work management tool. You could just use Google Sheets or whatever other way that you keep organized. But what I always say is work smarter, don't work harder. And so that's something that we did for both of these resources.
And so to recap, to make it sustainable for you all, this is like the recap of all the first pillar of scale and support. Really think about like how this platform or the platform you're going to use is going to help you scale, both from having geolocalized, localized content, having the host guide for your leaders to empower them to know where those knowledge articles are, and last but not least, make it like cohesive with the rest of the brand. And if we go now to the next pillar, Sophia, what was it again? I think it's the number one thing they want.
Right, so for us, content is the number one thing that's been requested by our community. And if we think back to the recipe that Jessica shared, we already know that great content and global relevancy are key components of a search. So I won't go over that, but what I do want to go over is where you come in as a community manager. We already talked that there are a lot of experts internally at your organization that are creating great content, that are paying attention, and that are committed. But you also are an expert. You're an expert with community insights. And so where you really get to come in is by being an advisor to all these people who are your content creators. You get to advise them on what type of content makes the most sense for your user groups, whether that's something as simple as what type of speaker notes do they need? Do they need to install fonts? Do they need to have this program for this presentation? To those more complicated conversations around, you know, this presentation that you created is great for admins in a corporate level, but it's not relevant to an admin in a small nonprofit. And so you're really using your community insights to guide and shape this content so it is relevant to your community. And along with this, we know that content is going to help meetings be successful. If someone's attending a meeting and there's really informative content and the speaker is very engaging, they're going to be happy, they're going to leave positive feedback, they're going to tell other people to join the user group meetings, and they're going to keep attending user group meetings. And that's exactly what we want. We want repeat attendees as well as new people attending these meetings. So another part of this too is that because internally your organization is already paying attention, it's a great opportunity to have your content experts, whether they are evangelists, product managers, product marketing managers, actually go and speak at these user group meetings. And that's going to create a great thing about access. So for us, we like to rely on intrinsic rewards more than extrinsic rewards. And so providing access to experts at your company for your user groups is huge. On the end of the internal side, go ahead.
And Sophia, let me transition because I'm seeing the time. I want to make sure that we have enough to talk about the elephant in the room. I mean, we all live now in an online world. And so you were mentioning, Sophia, how experts are so important. That is really true. And so of the new world we live in, you can expand the level of speakers that can go to those community groups that can fly from everywhere. Not to say that there aren't like challenges. We've started, and Sophia is a master at this, and all community managers that are on this session know, listen to the community. Are they burned out? Can they do it? Do they have the motivation? And resoundingly, everyone said, yes, we want to do it. And we realized that 50% of the audience wouldn't tune up to the mothership session. So the Salesforce session was needed, but also were the user groups. And so what we advise you both is to challenge the content, the way the content is delivered, and to enable and empower your user groups to know how to deliver this content, because we know it's a new word and it's the online word. And if we go to the last pillar, so we talked about building scale and support, having great content and speakers. The last piece is the marketing of it. You have to have cohesive marketing. Your user group you empower them to use your brand, and that makes them strong. That makes also it trustworthy. That makes them professional. And how do you leverage all the channels that you have? At Salesforce, we're very lucky to have enough channels, but it goes from the login page when you tune in onto our platform to our internal platform where everyone tunes into what we call Aloha, where they can use all the apps at Salesforce. It's both internal and external on all social channels that you have. Like Sophia mentioned, we have admins and devs and marketers and so many audiences at Salesforce. So even if you don't look like it, maybe you have tons of products. How can this surge be a rallying shout into the market that your user groups are active, they exist, and the community is a beautiful thing where you can learn, connect, have fun, and give back. Take us home, Soph. Take us home.
Great, so we're going to wrap this all up for you. So we showed you how you can seize a surge. It's a time when your whole company is excited and you can really bring both of your worlds together, community and company. We showed you how important it is to build together with all of your partners so you can align on goals and have a greater impact. And we also showed you the framework that you can take back to your community in your organization. Support, provide content and speakers, and leverage the full brand power. If you liked some of the things that we mentioned with our knowledge articles and support, be sure to check out the next session with Tiffany Oda and Kendall Odom. They'll do a deep dive on that. We also have other sessions coming up. And with that, thank you so much, CMX, for supporting us and for attending the session. Please keep in touch. You can follow us both on Twitter, and we look forward to chatting with you all throughout the summit.
Thank you. Bye.